The Super Bowl hopes for the 49ers may have taken a little bit of a hit if this drama does not get worked out soon. We are seeing breakdown in the locker room. We are seeing drama in the conference room. And throughout all of that, I've somehow managed to find two pieces of good news amidst all of this Brandon Aiyuk drama. I can't wait to tell you about. We're going to get into it in just a second. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers every single day on this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the action. So excited to be back in my home. Been traveling on the road for multiple days. Did as many videos as I could away in Michigan and ahead of time before I left. I'm so excited to be back, ready to cover the training camp and get out daily content for you. So make sure you don't miss out on all of that. The first piece of good news is this. Several NFL teams went home jelly last night. As Adam Schefter reported, as I'm sure you heard, that multiple teams reached out to the 49ers interested in a Brandon Aiyuk trade, and the San Francisco 49ers have no intention of trading Brandon Aiyuk. And of course they don't. We're going to break all of that down in a New York Minute here, but first, comment below how you're feeling about all of the Brandon Aiyuk drama. I'll be honest with you, I was on the road for like 18 hours, so I've been listening to all sorts of stuff. I've been listening to what folks on the radio are saying, Bay Area radio stations shout out. I've been listening to podcasts and what people are thinking there. I've been listening to and reading what people are commenting and what articles are writing about it. And I think I've got my own kind of opinion around this wrapped up. But how do you feel? Faithful, how do you feel about what's going on with BA? Are you over it? Are you done with it? This is just business? This is how it goes? Tell me how you're feeling about it. I look forward to telling you how I feel about it in this video. I think it's important to kind of identify what is it that Brandon Aiyuk is trying to accomplish with the trade request. That's the one I think is the biggest one. Is this just the arsenal of options available to him and he's running out of them and he's got this last play left in his playbook? What is this for Brandon Aiyuk? We're going to talk about all of that. But first, Jauan Jennings, and I've got a second piece of good news as I teased earlier on, by the way. At the very end of the video, I'm going to tell you about that second piece of good news coming out of all of this Brandon Aiyuk drama. But firstly, let's talk about what the players are saying. So Jauan Jennings took to social media. I'm not going to draw this one out because you probably already heard about this if you're as in touch with some of the media as I am. If you haven't, I want to make sure you don't miss it. So this is kind of unusual for Jauan Jennings, the only JJ that matters. He said, after the news following Aiyuk's request broke, fellow San Francisco receiver Jauan Jennings took on Instagram with the viral message that some have speculated was directed at Aiyuk. And I guess to be fair, as all of these social media posts are, when Aiyuk is like, they don't want me. Who's they? I don't know. He's talking to Jaden Daniels through FaceTime. I don't know. He's watching football highlights of himself playing for the 49ers. I don't know. Could be anybody. I mean, it's pretty obvious who he's talking about. JJ is talking about Brandon Aiyuk. It makes perfect sense to me. I don't see why you would think any otherwise, but technically speaking, we don't know this for a fact. You got to be a different type of person. This is Jauan Jennings here. You got to be a different type of person to act like you're doing everything yourself, knowing dang well you're not. Whew. Harsh words. Harsh words. And if you ask me, if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, this is how it plays out in my head. If I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I'm shooting JJ a text and I'm like, dude, what's up with that, man? That hurts me. I'm just trying to get my bag, just like you did, right? Although, different size bag, to be fair. And if you're Jauan Jennings, your response would be, you hurt me. Because he sounds like a guy who's frustrated with a team player who, Brandon Aiyuk, BA, is a team player. I want to be clear about that. He's a team player. Of all the wide receivers on the top 15 list, he's a team player. He's up there in terms of if we are rating team guys. I mean, he goes out there and he blocks like nobody else. So, Jauan Jennings has the right to say, hey, that hurts me, frustrates me, that you're out there acting like, this trade request and the way you've gone about the social media posts and all of the drama that you've brought up this offseason, all offseason long, you're sure acting like this is all about you and not about the team, which I do think is interesting. Christian McCaffrey does his business very quietly. Jauan Jennings did his business very quietly. There are a lot of individuals, you could even argue after the trade request, Deebo Samuel did his business very quietly. So do these players have to go out there and do the social media posts and all that stuff? You know, there was some drama with Deebo. There was some drama with Bosa. There's drama out there, but just a different level of drama that Brandon Aiyuk has brought on this football team and on himself over the course of the offseason. Sports writers, well, non-49er sports writers probably love it. I'm sure they love it, being able to talk about it throughout the offseason, but goodness. Okay? Now, that's one take. Let's listen to what Kyle Juszczyk had to say in a recent interview, taking more of an understanding and supportive tone. Juszczyk, who worked out with Aiyuk just 2 weeks prior to the Niners facility, says he understands where his teammate is coming from when it comes to negotiations. Contracts are a tricky thing, he said. Both sides want the best for them. Brandon, this is his first time to really get to the table and truly negotiate for a big-time deal. I understand you have to use whatever tools you have at your disposal to try and negotiate the best deal for yourself. Despite Aiyuk's uncertain futures in San Francisco, Juszczyk is still hopeful. His teammate remains a member of the Niners. Aiyuk's holdout and trade request comes a week before veterans are slated to report to Niners training camp. I truly believe that deep down, Brandon, this is again Juszczyk talking, Brandon still wants to be a Niner, and ideally he would be here. I understand sometimes there are things that you have to go through to make those negotiations happen. I'm still hopeful things get worked out and that he's still my teammate. Okay, more of a supportive tone. You know, kind of playing the middle of the fence a little bit there, and that's fine. Welcome to do that. That's a good teammate there. He's not totally throwing the team under the bus. He's not throwing the BA under the bus. He's kind of playing both sides of the fence. That's fine. But doing it in a way that seems supportive of Aiyuk, understanding his position, understanding in a way, kind of hinting toward his youthfulness in the way that he's going about this contract. And that is something that I want to talk about with you. Brandon Aiyuk has been emotional about this whole thing. And when he asked for a meeting of the minds with the 49ers, my perception of that situation, of him flying out to the Bay Area and asking for a meeting, requesting a meeting, telling on the podcast that he set up a meeting and that he's going to do it, having the audacity to bring Jayden Daniels with him to the Bay Area and show social media posts of him with Jayden Daniels after all he's already done, getting Jayden Daniels in trouble, presumably, for showing film, Washington Commanders film. So a lot of this situation feels very emotionally driven. I think this is a player who's gotten a little more mixed up than he should have in the actual process of handling what the agent is hired to handle. That's just my take. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. I look forward to joining you there and discussing it. As far as I'm concerned, I think Brandon Aiyuk has been emotional, has handled this emotionally, and I think that's a huge driver for why we are where we are. Stick around if you're still here because I've got another piece of good news, but let's get into my takeaways. First one is this. Aiyuk knows who holds the cards. He wouldn't be doing all of this if he was holding the cards. If he was holding the cards and the ball was in the 49ers court, then Brandon Aiyuk would be able to be quiet, be able to wait, be able to watch CeeDee Lamb potentially get a job, get a payday that maybe sets the market in a new direction for him. I mean, I don't think he's at CeeDee Lamb's level necessarily in terms of monetary value to the team, but whatever. That could help in a way, as many other folks have, Jalen Waddle especially. Secondly, another takeaway. Brandon Aiyuk has every right to want the bag from the 49ers, just as the 49ers have the right to stick to their guns on this one. The 49ers do hold all the cards. They do. And you know that because he's still under contract for this season. They're getting him at a great deal for his talent level, $14 million this year. They can franchise tag him again. No problem if they want to do it. And if they franchise tag him twice, the first franchise tag, they're still paying him under that $26 million they offered him in terms of average salary or whatever. So they have all of the leverage right now. They don't have to trade him. Granted, BA could continue to hold out. He could go the real dirty route, which I don't think he will. I don't think it helps him to sit out games and take those $800,000 fines per game. I don't think that's going to happen. That seems very unlikely to me. If anything, where we are in the season is so similar to so many players before that we really shouldn't be freaking out. Really shouldn't be. Third takeaway, Aiyuk is a few days away from having an official holdout of training camp. He's still not officially in a holdout. He technically held out during the mandatory minicamp, so you could argue there. The OTAs, they're optional, so they don't really count. But now is really where it's a holdout. Now it's a real thing at training camp. But he's not there yet. So in my mind, this is just a last-ditch effort. Last stitch or last ditch? Last ditch, right? Last ditch effort. This is just him out there, his agent probably prompting him to do this, I would imagine, saying, this is your last signal to the team to try and get a little bit out of him, to try and get a little bit more from the 49ers. And the 49ers have been through this enough times. With top-level talent, they probably know exactly how this is going to go. And Brandon Aiyuk needs to remember, by the way, that he's been on the trade block. He's already been on the trade block. He's not on it right now, but he's been on it. He and Debo. So the reality for BA right now is also recognizing this team has already thought about what it would be like without him. They've already got that in their minds. So I'm concerned. I want Brandon Aiyuk on this team. This team's better with him on the team, 100%. I also want to make sure that we're careful not to completely blow up the next several years paying him, Justin Jefferson kind of money. Okay. So this is his last-ditch effort. Fourth takeaway. This is important. Both sides are to blame here. 49ers have a part in this. When it was close, and Brandon Aiyuk, this is according to Brandon Aiyuk on the podcast he was on. I'm blanking on the name right now. It was close. We know Mike Silver says it was $26 million. So BA is probably just a step above that because it was close, like 27 maybe or something like that, right? And they were close to meeting it. Aiyuk thought that it was about to happen. He was getting a suit ready. I mean, that's the portrait he paints. And with it being close, with the opportunities, with the signing coming just around the corner, the 49ers could be to blame in that particular area for not getting it done. The same can be said for Brandon Aiyuk with the way he's handled social media and all of the drawing everything out. It just feels very backwards to do the trade request at this exact time, but then some folks think that's actually intentional, or not just intentional, but really smart and wise to do it at this exact moment, because if a trade is going to happen in those first couple weeks of training camp, wide receiver gets injured, all of a sudden the trade capital looks very different. The draft capital you could get for him looks very different. Final point, I've already kind of gone on about Brandon Aiyuk being emotional through all this, so I'm just going to skip that part and go to this final piece of good news. Peacock, Locked On 49ers, said this is actually a sign of good progression. This is the last-ditch effort for Brandon Aiyuk, and that is a good thing, because that means that Aiyuk has now exhausted his available options, and by exhausting them, now the two parties can truly come to the table, and he thinks it's going to be the next 10 days. The next 10 days, that would be amazing. But now the two parties can really come to the table and let pen meet paper. We are not trading you. This is our number. We'll do, hopefully 49ers say we'll do this extra stuff. We'll add this much more in guaranteed money so that everybody goes home happy, and then you sign on the dotted line and you move on. I think both parties are to blame in some respects. I think BA has not handled this the best, and he's given more leverage by being emotional to the 49ers. So I think eventually this gets done. Hopefully in the next week or so, if not sooner. He doesn't have to hold out for any of training camp. That would be great too. Or he does hold out a couple days and it gets waived. That would be nice. We'll see what happens though. Let me know what you think in the comments. Goodness, this has been a crazy and wild couple of weeks. I'm excited to be back home, settled in the basement, ready to talk 49ers with you every day. So make sure you don't miss out on all the action. What a time to be alive.